School years, to some extent, they are fateful. They largely determine what we will become in the future. If you hated school, thoughts of that period will instantly stir up feelings of self-doubt, a sense of your own imperfection, or even hatred towards other children who were cruel with you. Alternatively, perhaps you remember that time as the best period of your life, gifting you with the brightest memories, good emotions, and cherished friends. But what if, when you look back, instead of nostalgia, you feel pain and a growing sense of fear? What if school years led to the point where you can never again feel safe, never trust the person sitting next to you, and never let your guard down even for a second? That's exactly what happened to the students of the school in Danvers, Massachusetts after October 1st, 2013. Danvers can boast quite an interesting history. It is located in Massachusetts and was originally a part of Salem. The same Salem that in 1692 was the epicenter of the infamous witch hunt. But this story is not about witches, even though it happened on the eve of Halloween. Today, Danvers is simply a suburb, situated within a drive from Boston, with a population of 27,000 people. It's a place where families come to raise children in a quiet area, driving them to the local school every day, where around 1,000 students are studying, and there are 100 teachers. In 2013, Colleen Ritzer was one of them. Colleen was born in May 1989 into a very close-knit family of Peggy and Tom Ritzer. From an early age, she knew what she wanted to do in the future. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, not just for the long summer vacations. No, she aspired to inspire, motivate, and help children. Even though it was only her second year of teaching at Danvers High School, her students already adored her. She found her approach to each teenager, and many admitted that they only grew to love mathematics after Colleen began teaching them. Tuesday, October 22, 2013 began just like any other day. Colleen, as usual, worked until around 2 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. Then she planned to stay a little longer at school to help students who needed extra assistance with algebra. At 2:54 p.m., Colleen left her classroom to visit the restroom. And that's when everything took a turn. Classes ended around an hour later, at 4 p.m. After lessons, the teenagers scattered to their respective activities and eventually headed home. However, as the day gave way to evening, the parents grew worried. Colleen's parents, Peggy and Tom Ritzer, couldn't reach their daughter. The 24-year-old young woman lived near Danvers with her parents and was supposed to be back home. Tom drove to the school, saw her car still parked in the lot, and tried to inquire if anyone had seen Colleen. No one had, but her colleague noticed that her belongings were still in the classroom. That's when her parents contacted her friends, thinking she might have left with one of them and forgotten to notify them. But no, she was nowhere to be found. Growing increasingly concerned, they reached out to the police and reported their daughter missing. However, Colleen's parents weren't the only ones glued to their phones and watching the relentless ticking of the clock. When classes ended, the kids dispersed to various activities, including some heading to football practice. The team's coach noticed that his 14-year-old player, Philip Chisholm, had missed the practice. While the absence of the boy didn't greatly concern the coach, as he was one of the team's best players, Philip's mother, Diana, became deeply worried when her son didn't return home at the usual time. They had moved from Tennessee just 2 months ago, and Philip hadn't yet had the chance to make new friends. Diana was in the midst of a very difficult divorce from Philip's father. This situation was proving to be very tough for the boy. Not only were his parents going through a tumultuous divorce, but he had also been uprooted from Tennessee, where he had a girlfriend he loved and many friends. The boy had repeatedly expressed his reluctance to attend Danvers High School, where he felt out of place and believed that the other kids were making fun of him. Worried that her son might have run away, Diana called the police at 6:34 p.m. and reported the disappearance of the 14-year-old teenager. The police launched a search operation. The school principal sent out emails to all staff members of the educational institution, informing them about the missing student. Around the same time, she received a call, informing her that the teacher was missing too, the teacher of Philip. Later, it was revealed that Colleen and Philip were seen together in the classroom after regular classes. Colleen was assisting Philip with algebra. The fact that they were last seen together and then both disappeared raised suspicions. Rumors began circulating quickly in the small town. Could the student and the young, attractive teacher have disappeared together? The police focused their initial efforts on Philip because he was a minor, and the 24-year-old woman might have had innocent reasons for not responding to her family's calls. The police traced Philip's phone to a local movie theater. He had watched a movie around 4:30 p.m., but had left before it ended. Could he have run away because he couldn't bear staying in the hostile town any longer? As patrols roamed the streets of Danvers, other officers started reviewing surveillance footage in the school to understand what had transpired between Colleen and Philip in the classroom. Meanwhile, detectives searched the school. In a girls' restroom near Colleen's classroom, they found something resembling bloodstains, and in a woods located near the school, among fallen leaves, they discovered Colleen's bag. It was essentially empty. No wallet, no money, no credit cards inside. Nevertheless, this was a clue that signaled to detectives that this story wouldn't end well. Their premonitions proved right. Soon after midnight, a patrol officer spotted a boy walking along the roadside in Topsfield, a small town about 10 minutes away from Danvers. Recognizing him as Philip Chisholm, the officer detained him. In the boy's backpack, they found a blood-stained office utility knife, women's underwear, credit cards, and an ID card with Colleen's name on it. At first, the boy claimed he broke into the woman's car and stole her things, but the police immediately questioned why there would be blood on the knife in that case. Philip then calmly admitted that it was the woman's blood. He told the police that there was no helping her anymore and pointed on the map to where they could find her body in the woods. Around 3 a.m., the police found a trash container on wheels and blood-soaked gloves in the woods. And just 2 meters away, beneath a pile of leaves, they discovered the lifeless body of Colleen Ritzer. She was nearly naked and covered in blood. It was evident that her neck had suffered severe injuries. Near her body, left intentionally in a demeaning position, the police found a handwritten note expressing the killer's hatred for everyone around him. So what happened that day between Philip and Collin? It's important to mention that around 140 modern surveillance cameras are installed in Danvers School. However, the computer that was supposed to merge all the camera feeds into one system was old and significantly hindered the police work. Additionally, the videos were not numbered, making it difficult to piece the images together. When detectives finally managed to compile a complete picture using the cameras, their horror knew no bounds. Leaving the classroom at 2:54 p.m., Collin exchanged a few words with a colleague and went into the restroom. Almost immediately after her student Philip Chisholm left the classroom. He glanced upwards as if remembering the cameras, took a step back, pulled a hood over his head, and followed Collin. Approaching the restroom door, the boy calmly and confidently put on gloves. After spending about 11 minutes inside, another girl wanted to enter, but she quickly closed the door and left. As she later described, upon opening the door, she saw someone's naked lower back area slightly below the spine. Assuming someone was changing clothes or some couple had secluded themselves, she left. Philip came out right after her. He changed and attempted to return to Collin, but he was distracted by another student. Then the cameras showed the boy entering and leaving the school building multiple times. Eventually, he returned to the classroom, took out Collin's belongings and bags. He then tried to put on a ski mask, but bumped into another student and removed it. At 3:14 p.m., he rolled a garbage bin into the restroom, rolled it out, and wearing the ski mask without being stopped, took it to the woods. Philip reappeared after 25 minutes, barefoot and covered in blood. He changed back into all black attire and went to the crime scene, after which he left the school building for good and headed straight to the cinema. After watching a movie, he smashed and disposed of both his and Collin's phones, had a snack at a cafe, paying for the food with the credit card of the murdered girl, and wandered the streets until he was found around midnight. The evidence collected by the police clearly indicates what the cameras did not capture. When Philip followed Collin, he strangled her, stabbed her at least 16 times with a knife, and assaulted her. He then placed the girl in a garbage bin, drove her to the woods, and continued to torment her using a large branch. Afterwards, he left her body in a vulnerable position and fled. What's most horrifying is that, according to the forensic expert, the girl was still alive after enduring all these endless tortures. She died from blood loss after Philip had fled, but before the police found her. The boy did not admit guilt and was placed in a secure facility for juveniles pending trial. While awaiting his court appearance, he did the worst he could if he hoped for an acquittal. Taking a sharpened pencil, he followed a female security guard into the staff dressing room and attacked her. It was only the intervention of her colleagues that saved her from certain harm. Fortunately, she wasn't seriously injured and managed to recount how the boy approached her and began to strangle her. When she managed to call for help, he resorted to physical violence, but within moments, Other guards rushed into the dressing room and pulled Philip away from the woman. The trial began in 2015. Massachusetts allows juveniles who have committed such serious crimes to be tried as adults. Philip's confession was prohibited from being used in court, but the evidence against him was substantial enough even without it. The defense attempted to argue that the boy was mentally ill and in the early stages of schizophrenia. A classmate who was in the same class with Philip and Collin recounted that Collin mentioned Tennessee in a conversation with him, and Philip's demeanor immediately changed. Collin quickly changed the subject, but it was clear that Philip was visibly affected by the mention of that state and started muttering something quietly. Philip's lawyer claimed that the boy snapped after Collin's accidental word. However, this version didn't hold up under scrutiny, as on that day, Philip came to school with gloves, 3 sets of spare clothes and shoes, and a ski mask. Additionally, he stayed for an extra algebra class with Collin, even though there was no need for him to attend. And she never suggested he needed to improve in that subject. Furthermore, the prosecutor brought in psychiatrists who examined the boy and showed that he did not suffer from mental disorders, but was attempting to mimic them, or at least mimic the severity of their symptoms. There was definitely something wrong with him, but he could distinguish right from wrong and committed the crime with a clear goal in mind. Philip was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years for the murder, as well as 2 concurrent 40-year sentences for other charges, robbery and assault. In other words, he couldn't be eligible for parole until the age of 54. Philip's actions horrified even experienced psychiatrists, particularly the fact that there were no apparent reasons for the murder. No prior criminal history, no history of violence in the family, nothing. The schoolboy meticulously planned his crime, prepared a murder kit, took a souvenir from his victim in the form of underwear, and left her body in a degrading pose. If he already showed signs of a serial killer at the age of 14, one can only imagine what he might have become, so his first murder must be stopped. Philip claimed that he wanted to kill the teacher when she mentioned Tennessee, essentially blaming her for what happened. But the evidence clearly indicated that he had premeditated the murder. So why did he decide to take Collin's life? Perhaps in this way he wanted to get back at the school where he was unhappy, choosing the beloved teacher as his victim and leaving a poignant note beside her, to some extent confirming this version. This is one of the most horrifying crimes, and there's no way to defend against it because it's impossible to fathom such a gruesome murder committed by the quietest boy in the class. Collin Ritzer, who had a gift for connecting with every child, loved motivating and supporting her students the most. In her honor, a scholarship was established, allowing 82 young teachers to receive an education starting from October 2013. Additionally, one of her friends organized the Acts of Kindness for Collin campaign, where people perform any kind deed on October 22nd each year and share it on social media. It's a beautiful and fitting tribute to the memory of the kind and caring Collin Ritzer.